Hello, welcome to Bob's Dungeon. My name's Bob, and I'll be your host. This is the second part of my look at Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd Edition. If you remember in the first part, I talked about how my books for 2nd Edition were a hodgepodge. 2nd Edition came out, and sometime after that they revised it with the 2nd Edition revised. When I got my first book for 2nd Edition, my friends got it for me for Christmas so that I could start running games and they could play instead of them running the games and me playing. So they bought me the Dungeon Master's Guide. By the time I went back and bought my own copy of the Player's Handbook and Monster Manual, the revised editions were out, and I just have never gone back and gotten a revised edition of the Dungeon Master's Guide or the original of the other two. But anyway, let's talk about what you need to play this game. First off, you need a copy of all three core rule books, which consist of the Player's Handbook, which we talked about in the last video, the Dungeon Master's Guide, which we will talk about in this video, and the Monster Manual, which we will also talk about in this video. You will also need a full set of dice, which consists of a 20-sided die, a 12-sided die, preferably two 10-sided dice for rolling percentiles and for rolling tens, an 8-sided die, a 6-sided die, and a 4-sided die. So, let's start looking at the Dungeon Master's Guide. This is my original Dungeon Master's Guide. It's almost 30 years old. And as you can see, it looks it. At one point, the cover started coming apart, so I fixed it with duct tape. But it still works, still functions as a regular, as a good book. This book has 192 pages and a copyright of 1989. It was also published by TSR. The artwork in this book is done in three styles. There is black and white, there is black and white with some blue ink, and there are full-page color photos in this book, which are very breathtaking, I think. Very much an improvement over first edition. So let's take a look at some of the artwork in this book now. When we first opened the book, we are greeted with a black and white version of the picture that is on the cover of the book. Like in first edition, several of the pictures in this book are in black and white, while others add a blue ink to the black and white. But it's the full color pictures that make this edition stand out above and beyond first edition. This book has everything you will need to run and maintain a game in Dungeons & Dragons 2nd Edition. It has rules in here. It goes over the rules again for different options on allowing your players to roll their attributes. It has options in here for allowing players to play different monsters as player characters, which the details for that are more in depth than what they were in first edition. There are rules in here for creating new races to use in your game. There are also rules in here for creating new classes for your game, which goes through the details of how much experience they need to earn for each level and stuff. It's pretty good. This also has rules in it for diseases and other mishaps and trials your players will run into. Unlike the first edition, this doesn't have any rules in it for converting other games that TSR might have had out at the time into your D&D game. But it does give you pretty good options for coming up with your own stuff. There are detailed lists in here for magic items and how they work and how to use them in your game. More information on spells and how they might affect your game. There's just a lot of information in here for running your game. It also has some player information here, like the rules on how many levels a non-human can gain in different classes, which should have been included in the player's handbook, but, you know, at least we have the rules. And there really isn't much else to say. It's just a wealth of knowledge for anybody looking to run the game. So, that being said, let's take a look at the Monster Manual. The Monster Manual is 384 pages, has a copyright of 1993, and was also published by TSR. Unlike the first edition Monster Manual, every single monster in this book has a picture with it to give you an idea of what that creature may look like. All of which is in full color. The artwork's pretty decent, so let's take a look at that. Other than some ads on the inside cover, the first picture we are greeted with is a full color version of the picture from the cover of the book. Unlike first edition, every single creature in this book is given its own picture, all of which are in full color and really nice to look at. I've chosen just a few random creatures for this selection. There really isn't much else to say about the Monsters Manual other than it has a huge assortment of different creatures and monsters for your players to encounter in the game. You could essentially run the game without the Monster Manual, and everything you encounter would be human and elves and dwarves, but it really makes D&D so much better with the Monster Manual and being able to run into the slew of fantasy creatures that are contained in this book. It's not exhaustive. There are a lot more creatures, and they printed other books with more creatures in it for this edition, but this is a must-have for the game as far as I'm concerned. There really isn't much else I can think of to say about these two books, but except for maybe asking 3 questions. First, would I play a character in this game? Yes, I would. I cut my teeth in Dungeons & Dragons 2nd edition, and if I had a chance to play in a 2nd edition game again, yes, I would. Would I run a 2nd edition game? Yes, I would, again. I have a lot of good memories from when I played 2nd edition Dungeons & Dragons. I see no reason why I wouldn't want to run one again at some point. Would I recommend this edition of Dungeons & Dragons? Yes, I would. The only problems I really have with this edition are, once again, it's somewhat restrictive on non-humans as far as classes and levels go. But other than that, it's a very good addition to the game, and I would recommend it if you haven't tried it. It would be good for some retro play. Other than that, I really can't think of anything else to say at the moment about 2nd edition Dungeons & Dragons. Thank you for joining me at this look at the game. It wasn't an in-depth look, just a little look at what's inside these books. And I hope you join me next time when we'll look at something else. Bye.